They call it the Alaska Triangle, but the name understates the scale of what it contains. Draw lines between Anchorage, Juneau, and the northern Arctic coast near Utqiagvik, and you enclose a region larger than many countries, a vast, sparsely populated expanse of mountains, ice fields, forests, and coastlines where human presence is thin and often temporary. Within this space, people disappear with a frequency that has troubled investigators, pilots, search and rescue teams, and local communities for decades. Some are found, many are not. And in a disturbing number of cases, there is no clear explanation for where they went or how they vanished. On paper, Alaska's missing person statistics can be attributed to harsh weather, dangerous terrain, and isolation. But the Alaska Triangle resists tidy conclusions. Aircraft vanish without distress calls. Experienced outdoorsmen disappear on familiar ground. Tracks end abruptly, as if the land itself erased them. What makes the triangle unsettling is not simply the number of disappearances, but the patterns, what appears to be patterns, that repeat across time, geography, and circumstance. One of the triangle's most enduring mysteries occurred in 1972 when a small aircraft carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs and Alaska Congressman Nick Begich vanished during a routine flight. The weather was poor but flyable. The pilot was experienced. Extensive searches were conducted across thousands of square miles. No wreckage was ever found. No debris washed ashore. No confirmed signal was received. The aircraft simply ceased to exist, absorbed into the Alaskan interior without leaving a trace. Decades later, the case remains unresolved, its absence of evidence feeding speculation that something more than mechanical failure was involved. That disappearance was not unique. In 1950, a U.S. Air Force C-54 Skymaster vanished after departing Anchorage with 44 people aboard. A massive search followed, one of the largest of its time. Yet again, nothing was found. No crash site, no floating debris. In most aviation disasters, something surfaces eventually. In the Alaska Triangle, planes can dissolve into the landscape completely, as if removed rather than destroyed. Pilots who regularly fly the region have long reported compass malfunctions, sudden signal loss, and navigational anomalies that defy standard explanation. Magnetic irregularities are often cited, but even seasoned aviators describe moments when instruments behave erratically in clear conditions, or when landmarks appear subtly wrong, displaced, or unfamiliar. Some refuse to fly certain routes at all, describing an undefinable sense that something is off. Not fear exactly, but disorientation that feels imposed rather than accidental. On the ground, the stories grow quieter and more intimate, and in some ways, more disturbing. Hunters leave camp for a short walk and never return. Search teams find equipment neatly arranged, as if set down intentionally. Footprints continue for a distance and then stopped abruptly, without signs of struggle, animal attack, or environmental hazard. In several documented cases, dogs tracking missing individuals have halted suddenly, refusing to proceed, whining or pulling back as if confronted with something they cannot interpret. These details recur too often to be dismissed as coincidence, yet they resist explanation. There's no evidence of predators large enough to account for the disappearances without leaving signs. Weather conditions are not always severe. Victims are often experienced outdoorsmen who understand the land and its dangers, and yet they vanish. Some disappearances occur alarmingly close to populated areas. In 2012, a young woman named Samantha Koenig vanished from Anchorage under circumstances that initially appeared supernatural. She was taken from a public place, her trail dissolving into uncertainty. Her case was eventually resolved and attributed to human violence, a grim reminder that not every mystery is paranormal. But cases like hers complicate the triangle's narrative. They demonstrate how easily a disappearance can seem inexplicable at first, and how often answers only emerge when there is something left to find. In many Alaska Triangle cases, there's nothing. The absence itself becomes the mystery. For indigenous communities, the idea that the land can take people is not new. Long before the term Alaska Triangle existed, oral traditions spoke of places where people should not linger, valleys where hunters vanished, forests where voices mimic familiar sounds to draw travelers off established paths. One such figure is the Nantinak, sometimes described as a giant, sometimes as something less definable, associated with the abandoned village of Portlock. While modern retellings often exaggerate these stories into cryptid folklore, older accounts describe something more subtle, a presence that disrupts orientation, instills dread, and causes people to make fatal decisions. Importantly, these traditions rarely frame the phenomenon as a monster in the modern sense. Instead, the danger is environmental, spiritual, and psychological, a force that confuses rather than attacks. Modern psychology offers one possible lens. Disorientation, panic, and environmental stress can cause people to behave irrationally. But psychology alone cannot explain cases where individuals vanish without signs of distress, or where experienced travelers fail to activate emergency beacons or radios before disappearing. Nor does it explain why disappearances cluster along specific corridors, flight paths, mountain passes, river systems, repeatedly over decades. The triangle also intersects with another unsettling category of reports: time distortion. Survivors of near-fatal incidents in the region sometimes describe missing time, altered perception, or moments where the environment seemed unreal or flattened, as if depth and distance stopped behaving normally. These accounts are anecdotal and impossible to verify, yet they echo stories reported in other anomalous regions worldwide. In the Alaska Triangle, where survival itself is fragile, such experiences blur the boundary between physical danger and something stranger. Skeptics argue, reasonably, that the triangle is a narrative imposed on a dangerous place. Alaska is vast. Rescue is slow. Nature erases evidence efficiently, and yet, even official reports occasionally acknowledge the unusual difficulty of recovering wreckage or remains in cases where logic suggests something should have been found. Rivers do not always explain it. Glaciers do not always explain it. Sometimes the land simply offers nothing back. And that is where the paranormal interpretation finds its footing, not in proof, but in absence. The Alaska Triangle is terrifying, not because it confirms the existence of something unknown, but because it refuses to rule it out. It is a space where conventional explanations repeatedly fail to close the case, leaving investigators, families, and communities suspended in uncertainty. The missing are not confirmed dead. They are not alive. They are unresolved. For a culture that depends on answers, that state is deeply unsettling. The darker implication is this: if there is an anomalous factor at work, whether environmental, psychological, or something not yet understood, it does not announce itself. It leaves no marks. It does not roar or chase or leave evidence. It removes people quietly, efficiently, and without spectacle. That restraint is what makes it frightening. When people imagine horror, they expect violence. The Alaska Triangle offers something colder: erasure. To this day, search teams continue to comb forests, glaciers, and coastlines for remains that may never surface. Families wait decades for closure that never arrives. Pilots fly routes knowing others vanished along the same corridors, and the land remains unchanged. indifferent, and silent. Whether the Alaska Triangle is the result of extreme geography amplified by human myth-making, or whether it conceals phenomena we do not yet understand, one fact remains undeniable. People go into it, and sometimes they do not come back, and no one can say why. That unanswered question is the true horror, not monsters in the trees, but the possibility that the world still contains places where explanation fails and where disappearance is not an event, but a condition.